Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Master Technician at work. British People's League here. Dinosaur News brought to you by the British People's League this January 25th, 2015. If the background has you confused, it has me confused as well. Steady viewers to the shows will remember me saying how cold it gets in this old house, so I've had to shuffle the studio around so I keep my feet warm in here. That's the scoop. And yeah, it startles me as well looking at the background here. Come April, we'll get back to the original long-time setup for the studio. Dinosaur News, as said. British People's League, as said. John Beattie, International Director of the British People's League. Friends to all those of British stock around the globe. White stock. Then there are those who will say, well, there's other British, you know. Well, we're talking about those who know the score, those who know the meaning, those whose DNA can be traced back to the motherland, good old Blighty. The DNA proof that we go back well over 1,000 years. Those are the people we're addressing. The few that are left. You could say, well, there's quite a few 100 million around the globe, Beattie. And speaking of those of British stock around the globe, for tomorrow, happy Australia Day to our Australian blood brothers and sisters. I miss the old patriot Nick Main, passed away a few years ago, retired just of the peace. Patriots will well remember Nick. He sent out bulletins. He really plugged the British People's League. We haven't found anyone who will take over his role of a close connection with us. But good old Australia. I understand that the patriot Pauline Hanson is standing again in an election coming up. So she hasn't given up. These old soldiers, we ain't going to die and we ain't going to fade away. How are you today anyway? Yeah, as you can tell, I'm gathering my thoughts. I get help from some for not, you know, as a professor type, checking out the program in advance, miles in advance. I just get slogans and I shoot from the hip. It's just not my bag to get bogged down in total specifics, although we do have a few items today to cover. So we covered Australia Day tomorrow. Now yesterday, the 24th of January, was the death date of Sir Winston Churchill. And I do feel guilty bringing up Churchill at the same time in the same program as Australia Day, as the, I can't pronounce it properly, Gallipoli, the Dardanelles campaign in the First World War 100 years ago, where Australians were just mowed down trying to get through that canal, fighting Turkey to get to assist the Russians or whatever, the historical. You can look it up on Wikipedia. But there was a slaughter. There's certain YouTubes of the singing of Waltzing Matilda shows the men returning from the slaughter at Gallipoli from that disastrous campaign. And Churchill was the Lord Admiral in charge of the Navy, that disastrous campaign. And when they came back, there's one particular version, check it out on YouTube, of the song, and talk about a heart-wrenching coming off the gangplank with no legs, limbs blown all to hell. And there's a shot from 100 years ago, a photo right on YouTube, of the well-to-do welcoming hundreds of people in Australia welcoming back their patriots. They turned their backs. Yes, waiting at the bottom of the gangplanks. The audience was in total horror at seeing the men being pushed in wheelchairs down the gangplanks. So check that out on YouTube under Waltzing Matilda. So I have to weigh things up. I don't want to be a politician here. War is hell. And mistakes are made during war, that's for sure. And unforgivable mistakes. Now, by the same token, the 50th anniversary of the death of Sir Winston Churchill, January 24th. He was controversial, but let's put it this way. He saved Britain from an invasion in the 40s. He saved Britain from being invaded by the Axis forces. And debates about wars in hell and wars in hell. But, hey, war is hell. Now this is from 1941, Home Guard. It's the Home Guard in London, England. There's a Home Guard lady with a little boy in her arms while the bombs are dropping on London. And one of the cries that Churchill made that really saved London was, "We must save St. Paul's Cathedral." Now the bombs and the smoke and the page after page in this Home Guard booklet here. St. Paul's Cathedral was a symbol of Britain, of course. And had it gone up in flames, the spirit of the Londoners might have given in, the East Enders as well. But they saved St. Paul's. The temperature was wicked. It was going to burn. It was just a toss-up, but it did not burn, and that's what Churchill cried out. We must save St. Paul's, because it was a symbol. And that's what Churchill was during the war to those of British stock. He was a symbol of resistance. Now, speaking of British stock, oh, by the way, on Australia Day, they also have a Flag Day in Australia. So it's not Flag Day, but just a reminder that I keep Australia in my thoughts with the British People's League. That's my dictionary, my Oxford Dictionary. So it's posted on there. And rolling into British stock, the real day today. Ha-ha. I bet some of you thought I'd forgotten. Robbie Burns Day. Happy birthday, Robbie Burns. The little guy's hero. The poet Robbie Burns, Scottish poet known around the globe. My little booklet of Robbie Burns poems. And all his poems are in there. Look them up on Wikipedia, those new to the show. I'm not going to try and read out his poems. I do know of the history of two Toronto passed away police officers years ago. They passed away in the late 70s. They were experts on Robbie Burns. A lot of Scottish blood in the police forces. I remember a fellow died me when I had one of my illnesses quite a distance. An Irish gentleman. We had quite the debate in the car. And he said, "Why do all you Scottish want to be policemen?" I've never answered that one myself. I know my grandmother's brother was a Fenwick, an officer in Toronto. But anyway, that's just a tie-in. Robbie Burns is celebrated with suppers and dinners around the globe and a lot of Royal Legions, Royal Canadian Legion, halls, etc. Sad to say, very sad to say, January 25th, Robbie Burns' birthday. He was born, of course, on, as I check the notes here, am I allowed to do that? 1759, passed away at a young age of 37. But his poems were for the little people, the little guy, the hard workers of the planet, especially those of Scottish stock, of which this boy has a large percentage of his blood. So Robbie Burns Day, happy birthday, and happy Robbie Burns Day to all true Scots around the globe. I'm very sad to say that the Highlands of Ontario here, Halliburton Highlands, which is known, no doubt named for the Scottish Highlands, because the hills here, there's quite the resemblance in large parts of Scotland here in Ontario. the Haliburton Highlands. Well, when I raised my kids up here, we had them going to Robbie Burns night as Highland dancers, and my son did, as a little wee tyke, did the sword dance as a wee lad, and there was some tradition. But sadly, the last couple of years, there's no Robbie Burns dinner in Haliburton Highlands. Even the Highland Games are not continued here. Why? There were 2 or 3 families did all the work, no one else pitching in. And that's happening everywhere as we're being outbred, outmaneuvered, and people do not listen to their grandparents anymore. Now, as a kid, I respected my grandparents and I listened to them. Now, when I went off the deep end later in life, that had nothing to do with my home life. I had a wonderful home life. But to try and pass on the bagpipes and the haggis, the toast to the haggis, Robbie Burns nights, etc., to try and keep that tradition in there, people just don't listen to their grandparents anymore, the young ones at all. And that can be blamed to the parents as well, because the parents in the modern age think they're everything, but in the old days you respected your elders. That's all there is to it, and tradition carried on. And well, we all know the score, especially those in Britain that's being invaded again. Although I say again, it was close to being invaded in the 40s, but thanks to Sir Winston Churchill, invasion was stopped then. So is there going to be another Churchill to save Britain from the coloured invasion? The United Kingdom Independent Party in Britain is going to shake things up, and at least they're talking about getting out of European Parliament over there in Brussels, Belgium. That's a start anyway, and it should shake things up. And then there's the street parties, and I don't mean booze-ups, I'm talking patriotic young people who have taken the streets in different organizations, and God bless all of them. They're all trying in their own ways. So I know I'm running a circle here, but I got three big dates, haven't we? 24th, the hero of Britain, Sir Winston Churchill, died 50 years ago, January 24th, 1965. And we got Robbie Burns Day today, born January 25th, 1759, I do believe. Yes, got that right. And then, of course, Australia Day tomorrow. So we're trying to tie things in. And that's what the British People's League is about. We want to be a tie-in. And those of you who have looked up the purpose of the British People's League on our website, there's a link. Gives you a nice, succinct explanation as to our outlook and aims. It's a tie-in for those patriots of white British stock around the globe to remember dates, to go into the future, to face the battle in the future that no doubt is just around the corner. It's being brought to our homelands now, of course. Security forces are doing the best they can, and take our hats off to them. They're stopping a lot of would-be terrorists before things can really take place, but some are going to slip through the cracks. But anyway, we're being outbred. Young people just aren't having families. Regular viewers and listeners will remember well my budget talks as to it's all baloney that the mother can't stay at home. The tax structure is set up for a lot of poor people. Never mind the super rich, but the poor people as well. The more kids you have with a stay-at-home mother, which is a profession, which is the highest regard for this people, for this lad, the British People's League. And you get the kickbacks on income tax return and so much child credit. So check it out. You want to email me to get more details on it, britishcanada@gmail.com. britishcanada@gmail.com. While giving out addresses, we better not forget amongst the crowd today our partners in patriotism, PIP, Partners in Patriotism, Candor League, C-A-N-D-O-U-R, candor.org.uk. Check them out in Britain. Very serious organization. They do the research that John Beattie here lacks. And our friends at League of the South is the American group we recommend. Now, there are many other fine groups in Britain, of course there are, but I can't name them all in these 20-minute shows. And we're restricted to 20 minutes. The donations just aren't coming in to cover a wider broadband, etc. But 20 minutes seems to be the attention span. So it works out good. But we can't start rhyming off every patriotic group. They're springing up. The white resistance is growing in Mother Britannia. I can't say the same here for Canada. I feel like a lone wolf sitting in the middle of cottage country. But I do know from the hits and visits that we're being paid attention to. The British People's League is being paid attention to. And it's kind of ironic. We've mentioned, of course, the passing of Churchill 50 years ago. And a click in to our website, those of you steady listeners know, as I've said, Google Analytics tells you the cities that have clicked in. It doesn't tell you the people or the IPS number or the getting into technicalities. But I check every day. Sometimes I check every hour to see what cities are clicking in. And Harrow clicked in yesterday, first time ever. And of course, that's where Churchill went to school, where he was really toughened up. Reminds me of Montgomery, General Montgomery. These leaders during time of war were people that were raised tough. So Harrow clicked in. Pure fluke, or was someone thinking of Churchill? And also, we had another click in. Yes, Robbie Burns was born near Alloway, A-L-L-O-W-A-Y, Alloway in Scotland, which is near Ayr, A-Y-R, A-Y-R. A-Y-R clicked in this week, so help me. So that's quite the fluke. Now, for good old Australia, or young in some ways, we haven't had the click-in since Nick Main passed away, but we do have some friends in Australia on Facebook, and check out our Facebook. So, what can I tell you? I don't want to cry the blues. There are many great, fine groups springing up, lots of young people. Well, I guess so, because in 50 years they're going to be outnumbered and swamped. But very confident this lad is that we're going to win this battle. And if I was a third worlder who has relatives in Western civilization, I think you better contact your relatives back in Africa and tell them to stay put, because the backlash is building. It's going to be ferocious. You've heard of the Vikings. Well, a lot of us have Viking blood. And it ain't going to be a picnic when we're ready to roll. Legally, of course, we'll have the will of our parliaments. Speaking of legally, Australia legally is keeping out the boat people. On previous videos, I've praised Australia for meeting the boat people on the boats while they're at sea, transferring them into a better equipped boat, and zooming right back to the shores of Indonesia and dumping them back where they came from. And that's going to happen in a massive way in the not too distant future. All of the Western civilized countries are fed up to the teeth with the invasion, which has been allowed by the politicians. So the party will soon be over for the invaders. We have our heroes from Australia. Yes, the memory of Sir Winston Churchill. And for the little guy, Robbie Burns. Do you think Robbie Burns would have been pleased to see all the jobs taken over by the third world? I don't think so. So that's the mouthful for today, folks. And let's hope that the lighting in the studio, etc., comes through okay. So we do these videos, well, we're back to every couple of weeks. But for some reason, donations have just dried up. So do think about our costs a little bit. But I know it's the same plea from every patriotic group. So maybe you've got to spread it around a little bit. But, you know, $10 or £10, whatever, be appreciated. Check out how to donate on our webpage. Okay, that's it for now. So long till next time. God save the Queen.